Hello everyone, Simon here. Welcome back to the architecture of Hitman World of Assassinations. Welcome to Colombia. We are in a village called Santa Fortuna. Santa Fortuna is not a real place. Santa means holy, Fortuna means fortune. But I'm pretty sure that's not how the Christian virtues work. We don't worship money in Christianity. I think the name means they're worshipping money. Well, not these guys, but somebody. We'll find him. Somebody in this town is worshipping money. Um, I think that might be inappropriate actually, calling a town Santa Fortuna. Anyway, it's a video game, so what should we do? Let's take a quick look around. We are in a rather humble village. A bridge and some fairly simple buildings. So we have big trees, right? We have jungles pretty much all around. And if we come over here, get a view out into the distance, we have mountains and jungles. And we also have a river in front of us. And that's basically what we see. So there aren't any recognizable landmarks that I'm aware of. And it's not entirely clear where we are. Can we get a map of Colombia? Oh, loading. Right, so we have South America. Colombia is here, right? Colombia. And Colombia, if we zoom in a bit, we have jungles down here, but we don't have any Google Street View down here. The settlements here are not substantial. In fact, there are very few roads down here. There are also jungles over here. There are some national parks on the Pacific coast. So we might look over here for something that's similar to what we're looking at. Most of the population lives on well, they live out of the jungle. So not all of Colombia is jungle, and most people live out of the jungle, right? So in this valley here, for example, Bogota is not in a jungle. The thing is, wherever people live, they tend to chop down the trees. So if we look at what should we do? Can we find a street view here? No. Yes. Oh, well, I mean, this is the capital. As you can see, it's nothing like what we see in game, so we're definitely not there, right? So looking at jungles, I was looking around earlier, down to the southeast, there's a whole lot of jungle, and apparently the road ends there, and there's no more road. And then there's like a bunch of settlements, and generally the settlements follow the river. I wonder if we can find something to look at. So if we zoom in, look at this. So this is the river here. Oh, there's an airport? Crazy. But basically, there's not a lot of road access. I guess this is a road, and then it just disappears, and there's nothing there. So it doesn't actually join up to anything. And I think these settlements are mostly serviced by river only, and they don't have road access. And unfortunately, we can't get any street view. Can we zoom in further? We can't get any street view. There is an airport here. But isn't it interesting? We don't even know what's there. I mean, I don't know how you visit these places. A lot of these settlements by the river, they're there to do farming. So here, for example, we have like a building here. Or like a couple of buildings here, 3 buildings, maybe 4. And then around the building, you notice they've cleared out the jungle. I don't know if they're logging or if they're doing slash and burn agriculture, but they're doing something to the jungle. They're chopping it down. And so it's unusual to have a village by the river surrounded by jungle, because the people who live here, they chop down the trees. They're here to chop down trees. They're not here to live in the jungle. Not really. So that's the southern part, or the southeastern part. I don't know if that's even legal. Like, I don't know if they're allowed to do that or not. Is that just illegal deforestation or what? Anyway, if we go back out, over on the west coast, of Colombia. Things are a little bit better. We have a national park, right? And then we have another national park, right? So if we come in here, this is interesting. Let's zoom in. So there's some towns in the national park. Let's like come right here. What's it say? San Lorenzo. If we like land here. Oh, wait, no, we don't land there. Hold on. Okay, we don't land at San Lorenzo. We land at Condoto. Ah, there you go. Where are we? Ah, there you go. Rural Colombia. If we can shimmy over here. So there's a bridge, there's a river. I tried to look for like a village by a bridge by a river, so it's kind of like what we have in the game. This bridge is a little bit different. This is like a suspension bridge, right? Yeah, so this is a suspension bridge. Well, like a combination suspension and truss bridge. And you can barely fit one car on there, actually. But the river looks kind of like what we have in the game. Look at that, it's just like river and then trees right up against it. So if we like look over there, oh yeah, like, you know, a similar kind of thing. A river in the jungle. Let's go back and look at the buildings. Oh, look at that. So the first thing I want to point out, it's the this very distinctive construction method. If you look around Colombia, a lot of the buildings are like this. We have quite thin concrete frame, and then we have the brick infill. This could be brick, it could be concrete block, but it's a similar thing. So you have the concrete frame, cast concrete frame, and then you fill it in with brick, and then you have timber, rafters, and then you have the sheet metal for the roof, like that. And this is very common in Colombia for some reason. I mean, I guess I understand why. It's a very simple way to build. So casting concrete requires skill. You have to make the form work, you have to mix the concrete right, and then you have to pour it. Whereas laying the brick doesn't take as much skill. It takes a bit of skill, but not that much, because you're just kind of filling in. So you don't have to worry about the structure as much, because you've already got the frame telling you where to put the bricks. So you just put the bricks into the frame. And so that's a lot easier, and so this allows, you know, perhaps one skilled worker to supervise casting the concrete, and then the other workers can be relatively unskilled, and they can fill in the rest. So it's kind of like it's like easy housing. It's not too complicated, and people can figure it out. So you can get decent houses built without it costing too much or requiring too many specialist skills. And so you can see that every single house is built like this around here, right? They will paint the front. I guess they plaster and paint the front, so it doesn't look just like bare brick. Right. And then a few more things I want to point out is the road is kind of well paved. Not too bad. Like, it's not amazing, but it's properly paved. We have electricity and we have telephone. So this is telephone, I think, and then the other one's electricity. Man, there's wires everywhere. There's electricity, there's telephone. So the people in Colombia, they're not lacking in infrastructure. I mean, the houses are quite modest, but they have electricity. I think they have plumbing. I'm not sure if they have plumbing or not, or sewage. Not 100% sure about that. But they have wireless broadband. That is wireless broadband, right? And you know, there's gas stations. So modest, but they're not like backwards. They're not living in the Stone Age. They do actually have modern technology. Alright, cool. Is there anything else I want to look at? No, that's pretty much it. So this is rural Colombia. Looks like this. And if we go back into the game, look, it's pretty much the same. Right, we have the same, you can see that, the concrete frame, and then this is a concrete block infill with the sheet metal roof. And then we have wires everywhere. We have electricity and telephone, and then we have the wireless broadband, We even have TV aerials, although the aerials are a little odd if you pay attention to them. So that aerial is pointing that way, which means, supposedly means there's a broadcast tower that way, right? But then if you look at the other aerials, they're all pointing in different directions. So this guy's watching TV broadcast from over there, apparently. And if you come over here, this guy, the aerial back there, the aerial points that way. So they're all pointing in different directions for the aerials. I think that's a mistake. Because what happens, if you want to watch TV, you need to point the aerial at the broadcast tower to receive the signal, right? So you got, if there's one broadcast tower, which there probably would be only one, you don't want to point your aerials in all different directions because that doesn't make any sense. But aside from that little detail, everything looks good. Yeah? Alright. So the road, so this part of the road is decently paved, which is also what we saw in the real world village. But over here, the paving stops for some reason. Not sure what this is about. I think this is only for narrative, for the game's narrative, because infrastructure is not this bad in Colombia. Like, it's not amazing, but it's not this bad. So I think they just took the paving out of here just to emphasize that these people are poor. Whereas in the real Colombia, people aren't this poor. They do have roads. Oh, about water. So you see the blue tanks up there. You have a blue bucket there and a blue bucket there. So that's the water supply, I believe. The reason you have the water above the roof is because if the water pipes, if you have pipes, you might not have pipes. If the pipes don't have a lot of pressure in them, then you would pump the water up to a tank on your roof, and that provides pressure. When you turn on the tap, the water actually comes out, as opposed to just dribbling. So you need enough pressure in the pipes for the running water to work, and that's what that's for. I don't know if that means they pump water out of a well, although I don't think wells work here because we're right next to the river, or whether there's a centralized water supply. I'm not sure if they have centralized water supply. Alright, so should we look at the construction? I guess I've already talked about it, but here we do have one that is under construction. Look at that. So this gives you a good idea of how these things are built, right? So down here, this is what the final plaster and paint looks like. So it looks quite clean once it's all finished. But before it's finished, it's basically this, right? So you have, as we said, you cast the concrete columns and beams, and then you fill in between with the brick. And you can see there's like a doorway here that they've put in place, and then they just kind of fill the brick around the doorway like this. And there'll be a window here too. I mean, I guess they should put the window frame in here too, so then they can like put the bricks against the window frame, like the door frame, right? And yeah, and this is the construction method. And up there we have like the timber support for the roof, and the roof is just sheet metal. Now you might think, well, sheet metal is kind of cheap. It's kind of bad. It is kind of bad, but the thing about sheet metal is because it's so cheap and widely available, when it fails, like when it gets too old and rusted, you just kind of take all of it off and just put on new ones. And it doesn't cost very much to replace all the roof with the with new metal sheeting. So because it's so easily replaceable and so cheap to replace, like you just don't worry about it, right? You just have these rusting sheets of metal on your roof, and when it finally gives out and don't keep the rain out anymore, you just change it all. So this is kind of weird because it's very easy to fix this. You just get a few sheets and just cover it back up. There's no reason why this should be left broken like this. It's not like there's any special skills required to fix this, right? Anything else we want to say about the construction? So some of this is not the concrete frame and blocks. So some of this is like timber and sheet metal upstairs. Not 100% sure what that's about actually, because we don't see very much of this in the real Colombia, right? In the real world villages of Colombia, mostly it's just more concrete and block. And I think maybe the concrete block works better for the local climate because we're in the tropics, right? It's hot and humid. There's a lot of rain. It rains a lot in Colombia, and it's fairly hot. We're kind of close to the equator. And I think the concrete stuff works better than the timber stuff. But maybe it's okay if you're higher up, because, you know, you catch more of the breeze when you're higher up. So maybe that's why the second floor they use the timber. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never been to Colombia. Alright. So that's the basic construction. And the architecture is quite simple, right? It's basically just a room with a door and a window. It's not... There's nothing fancy about this. But it serves, you know? It works. You don't need too much more than this. For a modest shelter. Oh, they have air conditioning too. Not bad, huh? Okay. So we're gonna walk through the village of Santa Fortuna first. Let's do that. Let's come back here and check out this bridge. This bridge is structurally correct. Look at these, right? So you have a steel truss. You have the compression members. The vertical and the horizontal are compression members, and then the diagonals are tension members, right? So you notice how the compression members, they're basically I-beams, and they need to be I-beams. They need to have some width to them to stop the metal from buckling. But this is just a thin rod, because this is a tension member. This is being pulled on. So compression means you're pushing both ends together, and tension means you're pulling the two ends apart, right? So when you're pulling steel, you don't worry about buckling. But when you push it together, you have to worry about buckling, and so the shape of this is different depending on whether it's compression and tension. And if you like try to visualize the weight of it and how the forces work on the members, I don't know, maybe it's too complicated for you if you haven't studied it. Basically, you're pulling down on the diagonals, and then you're kind of pushing on the verticals. And then you have the bracing to stop the thing from leaning over sideways, right? So, a structurally correct bridge. Yay! Good job, everyone. We got our engineering correct. The town itself, we do have a gas station right at the entry. Oh, look at that. This guy's fixing up these little... They call tuk-tuks, but I don't know if they call tuk-tuks in South America as well. Alright, so he's fixing up some stuff here, not bad. And then here we have a bit of a convenience store. Although, there's not much to it, is there? I mean, there is beer.
Be careful out there.
Alright. On the other side of the road we have a pharmacy, and we have a doctor. So they have healthcare. I just want to like point this out. Although it's a very modest village, right? It looks poor, but they're not destitute. You know what I mean? They're not at the point where they don't have healthcare. They do have healthcare. I just want to point that out. So this is like you know, you can have a modest but complete life. If that makes, I don't know if that makes sense to you. Like, you don't have to be fabulously rich to have all the basic human rights. You can be quite poor and still have all the basic human rights. And by basic human rights, I mean stuff like a doctor that you can afford to see. You can have electricity and water and telephone and television and internet. Like, these are like kind of basic services. So they have complete services here. They just don't have a lot of money, right? So it's not like they're not struggling, but they're not rich either. I don't know if that makes sense to you. And like, maybe if you haven't lived this kind of simple lifestyle, it doesn't make too much sense to you. But you can have like a simple but complete life, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want people to look at this and think, oh my god, these poor people, look at how they live. No, they live fine. They actually live fine, you guys. They have internet. They have internet, they have TV. It's not terrible. Over here we have Panaderia de Camila. So I think this is a bakery. In fact, there's a lot of bread in here.
Please go
It's
away from me.
supposed to be a
I'm
bakery, but there's
hot,
no oven.
and you're
I
not.
don't know where the bread comes from. If we go upstairs, it's not an oven. If we go upstairs, it's like washing machines. So I don't know where the bread comes from, but there is a bakery. I think the game just made all the buildings too small, right? Like, the standard pattern so far is that the architecture inside the game is usually like half as big as it should be. So if you imagine like there's double the size of this, and then there's like an oven in the other half, this would make perfect sense. They've just like shrunk everything down for the game. There's meant to be a shop here, but there's not actually a shop here. This is just storage or something. And then here we have a bit of a workshop. Not sure what these guys do.
Vaya.
This might be like the local construction or general handyman. Not sure what they're doing, but they're doing some engineering stuff. Over here we have a hostel. Look at that. Is that written in English? Or is Spanish the same? So there's hostel, and in fact the hostel comes back here too. You see like room 1B, and then we have like room 1C, and then back here we have room 1A, room 1A there. So there's a bunch of rooms, and in here we have the reception of the hostel. So the existence of a relatively large hostel suggests that there's a decent tourism industry here. And they get enough tourists that they can run a business, run a hostel business, right? What is this? There's dishes, but there's no cooking. Is that a microwave? The only cooking appliance is the microwave. I think it's meant to be a kitchen, but all you can do is microwave. So the hostel, it does have an upstairs. It's one of the biggest buildings in town, actually. It's kind of interesting. So maybe this place has a lot of tourism.
Dude, you smell that? Oh yeah, sorry, that's me. I don't know what
In here we have a pretty big room. Kind of interesting that with a fridge. This is pretty fancy for a... Oh, and an office desk? This is pretty fancy for a poor village in Colombia, right? Alright, so this is the hostel.
Maybe the manager has some? Or try a shop.
And then next to the hostel, there's a bit of a town center, or a town square. Look at that. The town square, there's a couple of stages. I don't know how permanent the stage is. It looks fairly permanent. This is concrete, so this is definitely permanent. They're gonna unveil a statue at some point. So a town square implies that there's a civic life in the village, right? You have events, you have meetings. People hang out in the evenings. Maybe they have like a bit of a singing and dance. So it's a lively civic atmosphere, possibly. I mean, you don't have to use the town square, it could just be like abandoned. But the fact that it's here means that, you know, these people, they do stuff. What are these guys doing? Playing chess? These are concrete tables and chairs, look at that. So you're not gonna move these around too easily because they're concrete. So there's like this public furniture, there's a town square, right? We're not destitute. There seems to be like a government. You know what I mean? Like who pays for the public furniture? The government does, right? Moving along this way, we have more houses. This one's a little bit fancier. It's got a bigger balcony than the others. Alright, same architecture. We have a fruit store here. And the fruit is kind of spilling out into the street.
That's what I like to see.
Right, and we have a house here, and then we have a barber.
Okay, if it's nothing, then why do people keep disappearing?
Right, we're cutting hair here. So as we walk through the town, you see that there's basically a full town with plenty of shops and services. This is just a house. And then in this corner of the village, there's a slightly fancier house. Look at that. So we have this very interesting arch. It's a stone arch. So arches are not simple, right? Carving an arch like this is not trivial. You need to get the shapes right. And it's a a different level of construction skill than this stuff, right? This is just rectangular frames and they're all the same. Rectangular concrete frame and then bricks. Whereas this arch takes a bit more skill. It's got tile roofs, look at that. Everyone else has the sheet metal roofs. This one has tile roofs. And then if we come into here, we have a lawn. A mowed lawn. Oh, that's nice. A mowed lawn. Oh, we have a car. Look at that. We have a car. We have proper paving on the ground instead of just mud outside. So, a rich person lives here. I mean, I guess this is rich even by normal standards. It's fancier than my house. It's definitely rich by the standards of the rest of the village, right? And this, look at this. Look at the ornamentation. So the outside pillars are concrete, I think. If we like, we take a close look at that. Look at that. So I believe that's concrete, but in between this stuff is timber. Look at that. You can see the wood grain. So that's timber, and then the railing there, that's also timber. Can we get a close look? Not really. So you have... But you know, they've painted it to make it look all the same. Isn't that interesting? You have basically the same structure, I think. I think underneath the paint, it's still the concrete and the brick. But then in front, they have this timber porch, and the porch is carved, right? There's a lot of work going into this carving. And look at that, look at the ceiling there, look at that carving there. And then look at that little detail there. And then look at those little details there. So this is pretty fancy. It's got this classical thing going on, which is kind of funny actually, because classical architecture, classical Greek architecture, you know those marble temples that those Greeks have? Those are actually marble representations of timber structures. Like the columns, they are actually like tree trunks. And then if you look at the way they carve the stone, like at the top, it's like they kind of pretend to have timber elements, but it's like carved to look like timber elements in the stone. So all the like the motifs and all the carvings in the classical Greek architecture is the theory is there used to be, before like prehistory, there used to be like wooden temples, and then eventually they worked with stone. They transitioned to marble and stone, and then they carve the wooden temples the same style, but they carved it in stone. Is the theory. And now here we have timber. So you go from wooden to stone, and then back to wooden, and then following similar style, making it back in wood again. Except that these are not real wood structural elements. So these elements, these would be like beams going the other way in a real wooden structure, but it's not. It's just like a timber carving, copying the motif on the stone building, where the motifs are supposed to represent the timber building. Maybe that's a bit too convoluted, but that's that's the history of architecture for you. People copy each other until it doesn't make any sense anymore, is basically it. So the sides are a lot simpler, although it is still painted. Let's go inside and check out this house. It's not actually a house, it's just it's an office building. This might be the local government, although I'm not sure what to call. Is it a mayor? A chief? Who is the chief of the town? The village? We have a meeting room here, I guess. We have a big screen TV there. The furniture is quite modern, huh? Look at that. Seems very out of place in the town, doesn't it? The village looks so simple and so modest. And then we have this shiny modern furniture. Look at that. And this lamp, this is a kind of square square box of light. Ah, very interesting. A different style compared to the house, and then the house is a different style compared to the village. There's a whole lot of history going on, right? We have a toilet, fancy lights, and we have some of the older furniture moved here. Look at that. Look at those carpets and painting frames. Interesting. So they remove the old stuff and put in the modern stuff. Look at that, modern art. I wonder if this building is historic. In fact, now that I think about it, I wonder if this is based on a real historic building somewhere in Colombia. If it is, I don't know where it is. I have no idea where this building is. It's possible that this is based on a real historic building in Colombia. And look at the wallpaper too. Look at this wallpaper. Upstairs we have more desks. More office, I guess. On the table here we have a model. We have a model of an industrial facility. I think it's some sort of chemical plant by the river. And it's probably polluting the water. It's pumping water. I'm not sure what this is. Could be a chemical plant, or it could be a water purification thing to give the town a water supply. That'd be nice. It seems too big for that though. I mean, it seems too big for this village. This village is too small to require a water supply this big, unless they plan to expand a lot. Look at, it's got 4 stories. Is that what it means? Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 levels of windows. No, 5 stories because the bottom story doesn't have windows. According to this model, this building is huge. And look at the size of the trees, right? The size of the trees and then the size of the building. Interesting. So they're planning some sort of industrial building. So we have a balcony at the front. Get a view of the town, although I don't know if there's anything much to say about it. And then at the back, we have another balcony where we have a view of the river and the jungle. Not too much to say about this either. It's interesting that we have a little building here with a lawn like this. Maybe it's some sort of colonial governor? Right, the office of the local colonial governor? Maybe? Or maybe a governor is too high ranking. Maybe some lower ranking person. I'm not sure. And there's no signage. I wonder if there is signage. No, there's no signage. Alright, so continuing around, following the street. The shops end there, and now we get into the residences. So these are people's living houses. Not too much to say about them. It's the same kind of construction method. Although every now and then you get like timber things. I'm not sure this is accurate actually, like the timber part to this. Like when you look at the street views, like in Google Maps, you get the impression that everyone just lives in the concrete block houses. There's very few timber houses. We can see though that there are continuing to be new structures, new construction going on. And this is actually an important sign when you like go visit a place and you're looking at the architecture. If new things are being built, it means the economy is growing, right? If the economy is bad, nobody's building new houses. But if people are building new houses, it means the economy is growing, the population is growing, and people have money to spend on new houses. So this is a decent sign, suggesting that things are improving over time. So no matter how modest you think all of this is, and it is very modest, actually things are growing, apparently. Continuing down here, and then we get down to the river level. The road continues to be bad, and there's like more construction sites. There's construction sites everywhere, in fact. What could possibly be causing the economic boom? We'll find out soon. Over here we have shops by the street, and then here we have a bar. So the bar has outdoor seating, and then in the building we have a bar serving alcohol. It's a pretty big bar, right? I mean, look at the size of this thing. So the shops and the bar implies that there are visitors to the village, And we did have the hostel, so there's a tourism thing going on. I mean, there's a woman there with a camera. I honestly don't know how many tourists would come to a place like this, because I wouldn't come to a place like this. Jungle's not really my thing. I'm not really a humid guy. I prefer dry climates. But the things we see in this village suggests that there are enough tourists to provide a decent economic boost to the village. Like there are shops serving the tourists, and there's a bar. I mean, the bar. I mean, well, you can say, well, maybe the bar serves the locals. Maybe it seems a little big though, just to serve the locals. Unless everybody drinks every night. Maybe they do. Who knows, right? Um. Yeah. No, it seems like it's the hostel at least. So there's enough tourists here for there to be businesses catering to the tourists, and they make enough money for this to work, right? Over here we have people living by the water. I also have doubts about this. I think Colombian rivers experience flooding every year. Colombia has, well, it depends which part of Colombia you are, but they have like a wet season and a dry season. I think the river levels kind of rise and fall over the course of the year. And like if it's particularly wet that year, you might get flooding. So I have serious doubts about this. First of all, we're too close to the river. And I'm pretty sure the rivers are prone to flooding around here. So I'm not sure if this is accurate. And again, like looking at the map, looking at Google Street View, I've never seen this in any of the maps. Maybe I haven't looked in the right place. Maybe there are places like this in Colombia. But usually you look at the map, there's never not enough land, right? Like why would you build on the water when you can just build on the land? There's plenty of land in Colombia, and you're never so crowded that you need to build on the water. Unlike some other parts of the world, like in India, in China. Like India has a lot of people, and like Southeast Asia has a lot of people. So in some of those countries, you have people building on the water because there's too many people and not enough land. I don't get that impression in Colombia, to be perfectly honest. It seems like there's plenty of land and it's fine. You don't need to build on the water. And I don't think the rivers work for this either. There's a bunch of trash in the river, that's a shame. So this building is a workshop where they fix boats, I think. Again, like a really big boat mechanic shop, right? I think the implication is that a lot of people travel by boat. I mean, there's roads, right? There's a bridge back at the other end of the village, and there's another bridge over there. So there is a road that runs all the way through and goes out both ends of the village. But there's also the river, and there's also the boats. And given the condition of the road, maybe more people travel by boat than by bus or by truck. If the river connects to the right place, usually rivers, like boating your cargo around is often cheaper than trucking your cargo around. Especially if the roads are bad. So it wouldn't be unusual if people travel by boat more than they travel by road. We have more shops. What's this guy selling? Oh, he's selling fish? Okay. Right, so I guess he's fishing and he's selling the fish. And those guys are fishing. I'm not sure how much fish you actually catch like this. And then we have more houses, so at least these houses are further up off the water. So this is maybe more plausible. Maybe the flooding doesn't reach high enough to flood these buildings. But then there's also buildings down there, and those guys, they're in trouble, I think. I wouldn't want to be those guys living down there, because it seems a little too close to the water. Oh, and you can't have the concrete above the water, because the concrete's too heavy, I guess. You would need big foundations to hold up the concrete house, the concrete and brick house. And so all of this is timber because it's lighter. And you don't need such big foundations I have doubts about this part. I'm not sure about this. Okay, so moving on, and we leave the village and we walk down this road, right? As we come over here, we see a bus stuck in the mud. See, this is the problem when you don't pave your roads. This is expensive, man. Like, trying to get this out of the mud. Oh, this is awful. So good infrastructure is really important because this is gonna waste a lot of time and a lot of money. They do have a bridge, and the paving begins right here. Yeah, no, it really makes no sense that the village is not paved because they pave this end out of the village and they pave the other end out of the village. They could just pave in between as well, and like it doesn't cost much more. This bridge is kind of cool. It's like the bigger cousin of the other bridge. The bridge does have two piers. Look at that. There's a pier there and a pier there. So it's not just a single span. There's like 3 spans. I'm not sure about that. Um, Rivers in the jungle can have debris because the trees will fall into the river sometimes. And sometimes like piers like that will catch the debris, and then if it catch too much stuff, it might block the river behind it, and then it might actually break the entire bridge because the force of all the weight of everything kind of piling up. So having piers like this, I don't know, it might work. But you notice there's like big concrete foundations there. And I get the impression that bridges in Colombia are just, they're not this high investment, right? They usually just span right across the river. I wonder if I can find more examples of bridges. So we did see one earlier. There's another bridge here. Oh, cool. Let's check this one out. Which way is it? Oh, there it is. So, yeah, so look at this. This bridge just spans right across the river. Like it's just a huge arch bridge. And there's no piers in the middle. And this thing is longer than the one in the game, right? So I think this is smarter because like again, if the river is prone to flooding and it like rains a lot and there's a landslide upstream and then all the like fallen trees start piling up, so that could be pretty bad for your bridge. So just having one span, no piers, probably make a lot of sense. Yeah, and you notice that people are not living on the river. They're living next to the river, but not quite on the river the way it is in the game, right? So they're living above the banks of the river. Maybe this is the closest. So this guy hit the house, or whatever building that is, it is on the river, and then they've extended their building a little bit over the river. And you see that there as well? A little bit? Okay, so I guess they do, like, build over the river a little bit, but not as much as in the game. And they're not as low down. Look at this. They're all kind of pretty high up off the banks of the river. This is the lowest it gets. And that house seems kind of in a bad shape as well. So everyone is like they're not right on the river the way they are in game because the rivers flood. Right? So this is maybe not quite right. Continuing on, we have a construction site. Oh, look at that. Remember that model of the chemical plant? So this is the construction site of that chemical plant, I think. Except this looks a lot smaller than the model. The model says there's going to be a 4-story building. I mean, I guess it can be. I mean, the trees are that tall. Yeah, no, I guess you can do that. 4-story building and then like a big tank. There's not enough construction work for us to really tell what this thing is. Is it a water purification plant? Is it a chemical plant? I don't know what it is. But they are using concrete and they are laying foundations. Oh, they have crane too. The crane is tall enough for 4 stories, right? Hold on. 1 story, 2, 3, 4, barely. The crane is barely tall enough for 4 stories. Maybe 3, 3.5. We do have big pipes. And yeah, no, we can't really tell what this building is gonna be. I think it's a little strange too, though, the way this looks. So the way construction works, you really want to build your building one layer at a time. Like you build the entire layer, and then the entire layer, and then the entire layer. And what they've done here is they haven't finished the foundation actually. You see this floor slab is not cast.
Back in high school.
And then like this foundation is not finished. I wonder what goes in there. This slab is not cast. But they've already started casting the walls. So you wouldn't do this. And not only like the walls are not finished, and they've started casting the next floor. So it's kind of interesting from like a gameplay perspective to have you can like climb up and down. But why would you cast this floor? Wait, where's the other side of it? If it's gonna be walls holding out the floor, then why would you put the floor in before you put the other wall in? You see what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. I think what they've done is they've just put in bits and pieces and not really considered the sequencing of how a building is put together. And like the columns, they're not done. Columns are like half done. Oh, the columns don't line up either. I noticed this earlier. Let me just climb up here. Let's get up the ladder. So in a building, in most buildings, the columns just form a grid, right? You have a grid of columns, and then you have beams joining the top of the columns, and then you have walls. And it's simple, right? Everybody can understand, alright, the columns just go in a grid. Easy. Here, if you look at these columns, they don't line up. That one doesn't line up with that one. Like, this is offset, and then that's offset, and then like everything else doesn't line up. Like, that one doesn't quite line up with this one, and everything's at a different level. So you would not do this. There's no way these columns make any sense, right? And then that one is just bigger. That column is just bigger than these columns, but there's only one of those. There's no big columns anywhere else. They've just randomly put building elements around this building site. They haven't thought about what this building actually looks like when it's finished.
It's just so far off the charts. I wonder how they even heard about this technology.
It's just kind of building random walls. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, no, you wouldn't do this. You really should like finish the whole foundations, and then you put in all the columns, and then you put in all the walls, and then you put in all the floors, and then so on and so on. You don't just kind of leave some of the floor unfinished and then start building the walls like this. You don't do that. Over here we have some portable toilets. You always need toilets because people are gonna poop. And then we have a site office here. So site offices are like temporary structures. So the inside of a site office usually has a lot more paperwork than this. More paperwork or like powerful computers, not this computer. This computer. You need powerful computers or a lot of paperwork. There is some paperwork, like there are like blueprints. Look at that. What is that? There's like 5 there, and then like another 2 here. No, if you go to a real building site and you look at their drawings, they're like enormous piles of paper, and there's multiple copies of it. And the reason for this is you draw everything. You draw like every joint, every column, every floor, every door, and then like all the wires, all the plumbing. Like you have to draw every light switch, every light fixture. Like you have to draw everything. So everything is specified, and so you just need piles and piles and piles of drawings, right? Every foundation, every pile, how you lay every single reinforcing steel inside the concrete, like just draw everything. And you just have a lot more paperwork on a building site than this. That's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah,
Oh, do I need to
Now I feel
explain
safe.
how concrete is cast? I just assume that people know, right? Maybe you don't. So concrete, you mix it, it's a liquid, and then you pour it into a mold like this. So here we have a wooden formwork, we call it. The formwork is basically the mold for the concrete. You kind of make the formwork, you pour the concrete. I mean, there should be the formwork at the end here as well because it would just leak out the end otherwise. So you need like formwork all around it, and then you pour the concrete, and then you let it set. It takes a few days, and then you take it off, and then you move the formwork over a bit. So what happens is like you would make one bit, let it set, and you move the formwork over and you pour, and you let that set, and you move the formwork over and you pour, and so then you kind of build the wall one piece at a time. And that's how you cast concrete. It's kind of inefficient because you have to wait for the concrete to set, unless you have a lot of formwork, and then you just kind of cast everything all at the same time. What they do these days more often is they would cast the panels in the factory, they would bring the panels in by truck, and then they would cast them into place on site. So instead of casting the whole thing on site, you would have the panel, and then you would have these reinforcing wires sticking out. And then you would just kind of overlap the wires. So if you have like two walls, you just overlap the wires, and then you pour the bit in the middle to join them together. And because you're pouring less on site, it's faster. And because you're casting the panels in the factory, you can control the humidity, you can control the temperature, and you get better concrete that way. Because if you're casting outdoors, you can't control anything. Like you're at the mercy of the weather. Like if it rains, it's different. If it's dry, it's different. If it's hot, if it's cold, the concrete comes out a little bit different, and sometimes that's unreliable. So if you like cast the concrete in the factory, then it's more reliable. So you try not to pour a lot of concrete on site these days. I mean, you have to pour some concrete on site, but you try to minimize that and do a lot of it in a factory. Is there anything else we need to say? Not really. It's it's pretending to be a building site, but a real building site's not quite like this. I mean, they got most of the pieces there, I guess. I mean, it's not too far off. It's funny that the columns don't line up, though. Who are you trying to fool? Your columns don't line up. It's not real architecture. Okay, let's run back. So this is the more or less realistic part of the village. And by realistic, I mean this is more or less the kind of thing you find in rural Colombia. And in fact, like, it looks right, it feels right, as far as I can tell. The next part, in fact the remainder of this is not realistic. It's very fictional. Because if we come over here, we started here, right? If we follow this road up here, oh look at that, we have another arch. The arch signals an entry into a different space. And then we have a bridge, and then we have an enormous walled compound. So this is fictional. I don't know if anything like this exists in Colombia at all. It might, I don't know, I mean there might be some rich people in Colombia, but let's go ahead and knock on the door.
No big deal. Alright, hang on. I'll let you in.
Thanks, bro. And then beyond this heavy door,
Let me get out of your way. Come on.
there's a luxury mansion in the middle of the jungle. A luxury, ultra-modern mansion in the middle of the jungle. I don't think this happens in Colombia. So the garden is geometric. Look at these trees. This is like actively defying the jungle, right? Like you have squeezed these plants into these geometric shapes. This contrasts starkly with the wild trees in the jungle outside. Ah, look at this place. This is interesting. There's this building here. So this is a different style, right? We have the super modern, and then this is a lot more modest. This is a lot more like the buildings in the village, but maybe a little bit fancier. There's tile roofs. Not sure what to make of this little building. It might be the remains of an older mansion that used to be in this place, because the walls are also in this style. The walls have the tiled uh, roof at the top of it. So the walls are in this style, and then the building, the house itself is a different style. That's kind of interesting. So there might be maybe there used to be a different building here. They demolished it, built a new mansion here, but they kept some of the old bits, possible. And the old bits might be this style. This is a security room, in case you're wondering. Actually, are these maps useful or not? Ah, maybe I should have checked these maps sooner. Do they actually show where we are? East Central Cuba area. No, this is Cuba. Yeah, no, this is Cuba. It's not Colombia. Okay, and then on the other side of this very fancy stone driveway, we have a garage. A garage with a fancy sports car. Can you imagine driving a fancy sports car in the mud road outside? Look, if you want to drive a sports car, you need better roads. You need to build the roads. I mean, you certainly have enough money, right? If you fix the roads, then the sports car makes more sense. The garage is very modern and also very air-conditioned. Air conditioning is kind of important if you have really expensive cars, and especially in the jungle where everything is hot and humid. You want to air condition your garage to make sure that the paint doesn't peel and things like that. And like the metal will rust because it's humid. Alright, so we have a fancy garage, and in fact, look at this. We have Art Deco cast concrete motifs against the stone. Not too sure what to make of this, actually. There's a tunnel here. It leads to caves underground. We're not going to go down there yet, but we will later. We have a chair. Why is there a chair here? Do you sit in the chair to admire your car? Is that what you do? Here we have sort of a mechanics workshop and then an office as well. So I think this means they have a mechanic on site all the time to fix the cars. Extravagant. What should we do? Let's walk around and look at the grounds, and then walk around again, look at the facade, and then we go into the mansion, right? So first of all, the grounds. The geometric gardens continue around this side. And they're trying to force these trees to line up, and they're kind of refusing to line up. We have sculptures. And then down here we have the river. Again, I feel like we're a little bit too close to the river, because the river floods every now and then, I think. Well, maybe not this part, because there's a waterfall there. I guess it wouldn't flood up here, because the water would just kind of go over the waterfall. We have a little bridge going back there. We're not going back there. Geometric gardens, right? And then on this side, we have boats. Oh, how fancy. And then we have the river going that way, right? Up here, outdoor kitchen. And not just an outdoor kitchen, but a massive, massive outdoor kitchen. Who are you entertaining to require such a big outdoor kitchen? And I guess this is where you do outdoor dining. Oh, it's massive. Is it a buffet? Is it a buffet or is that raw food? Hold on. Are those cooked? That's not cooked, is it? That seems dubious. Oh, fish pie. So, nothing to do with architecture, but apparently in the olden days, you would actually have fish parts sticking out of your fish pie. It's kind of funny. Alright, coming around here, we have bikini ladies lying around. Alright. And then here we have an outdoor bar, very interesting. You notice there's no shelter here. Oh, I feel bad for that guy. I mean, we're in Colombia. It's hot, it's humid. He's wearing a bow tie. Out, he's wearing a bow tie outdoors, hot and humid, under the sun. There's not even a shade for him. I feel bad for this guy. And also, it rains a lot in Colombia, so I don't I don't know about this. Yeah, I don't know. It rains a lot in Colombia. I don't know about these outdoor spaces, to be honest. Here we have like a little conversation pit. We call them conversation pits when they're inside a house. I don't know if you call them that
Who's flying around?
outdoors. That's a big screen TV, I think, although they're not watching anything interesting. It's just a pattern, like sound system back here. So inside the pit we have white powder on the table. You know what white powder is, right? Alright, cool. So they're consuming white powder. Oh, the game's lagging a little bit. So the whole outdoor area is just entertainment, right? Like there's the kitchen, so there's food, and then there's the bar. There's a sunbathing, and then there's a white powder, and then there's the big TV. So everything is just party. It's just partying non-stop. Nobody does any work. Over on this side of the building, back here we have a jacuzzi. Can you see that? Alright. Like an outdoor jacuzzi. Wouldn't leaves get in there? You have to like pick the leaves out all the time. And then you have another bit of a lounge area. Back over here we have outdoor showers. Right, again everything is for fun, nothing is for work. And now we're back to the front of the house. It's a party mansion. That's basically what it is, it's just a big party mansion, right? So the front facade, can we get a good look at this? Ah, look at that, so it's very square. And in fact, if you look at the bottom, it's quite closed off. It's not very welcoming, is it? It's kind of like a... It feels a little bit like a fortress. And it feels like when you come in, people look down on you from above. It does feel like that, doesn't it? So you feel like you're like, I don't know, are we welcome or are we not welcome? It's not a very welcoming entry. In fact, it looks kinda like a fortress, and maybe it functions like a fortress too. Imagine, hypothetically speaking, if you were a drug smuggling cartel boss. Not sure why I said that. Maybe because there's a lot of white powder back there. But imagine if you were a drug cartel boss, and like the cops come in. You would like fortify up there and shoot down at the cops as they try to raid your house, right? Probably. Although the cops will have plenty of cover out here too. Maybe not. But it just feels a little bit like a fortress to me. And coming around the other side... Oh, also like a lot of overhangs. A lot of shade. And this sort of thing is quite important. Again, because we're in the tropics, we're near the equator, so it gets kind of hot during the day. So you want like big overhangs to shade the side of your house, so the heat doesn't come in as much. You see like big overhangs, they're quite common in a lot of tropical climates, not just in South America, but also like in Southeast Asia, you also see a lot of like big overhangs. Again, just to keep the sun out, because it gets hot, right? This side of the building, quite similar. And then the house seems to like transition halfway. There seems to be like a front half and a back half, and they seem to be distinctly different, which is interesting. And then the back half, let me just get in the middle and look at it. The back half is a lot more welcoming, somehow. I guess the stairs. So instead of just kind of balconies, everything looking down on you, now there's stairs. So you're like, oh, I can get up there. So the back is a lot more welcoming, a lot more friendly, a lot more open. Instead of blank walls down here, like you have big windows there, well not even big windows, just a big opening there, and a big opening there. And the building is like, there's a block on one side, there's a block on the other side, and then the central bit kind of goes back. So it's not just like one continuous wall. It's like, oh, it looks like you're welcoming me in, like you're kind of like stepping back and letting me come in. So the back of this is more welcoming, and the back of this faces the view, right? Same, a lot of overhangs. Although I don't know about the glass ceiling up there. I would just, because you want to block the sun, don't you? Maybe it's like special tinted glass. And then this side, again, like this is a little awkward. I'm not sure what's going on here. But again, there's like a back half and then there's a front half, and they don't seem to fit together. What they might have done is they drew two concept art. Like they drew the front concept art and they drew the back concept art, and then they just gave it to the level the guy who makes the level, and they had to figure out the size by themselves. All right, so that's the facades. The facade that faces the village is a lot less friendly than the side that faces the other way. It actually does feel like that this is the back and the other side is the front. Right? It's clearly they're facing away from the village. This house. Let's get inside.
Somebody doing their job.
Look at that detailing on the roofs. Oh, look at that. Look at those detailing on the walls. Very interesting. We get in here, and then we have the entry hall. See, again, the staircases face the other way. It almost feels like this should be the main entrance. You come in here, and then the stairs go back on either side. Like the building actually faces this way. It actually, like the front, this is the front. That's the back. Oh, look at those wavy things up there. Interesting. So that's the lighted, but not too much, right? Actually, I kind of like the quality of the light. What happens when you do that is that you get like filtered light. You don't get like direct, harsh sunlight. The light kind of filters off. I think it's, what is that? Is that metal? Is that timber? I'm not sure what it is. But timber is quite nice, because you get like this kind of yellow glow if you have the right timber. And the quality of the light is quite nice when you do this with the shades. Okay, let's go walk around the house and check out the rooms. Look, there's sculptures everywhere. Over here we have a pool room, by which we mean the game pool, not a swimming pool. We have a bar, and then we have a big TV. I think this is like the game room, I guess. Is it a playing card? Are they playing cards here? They could be. So I guess we have like a game room. And then next to it, what's back here? Toilet. Alright, toilet. Over here we have a dining room. The lights are out though. It seems like it's not used very often. This is the formal dining room. Very fancy, very square table. And if you're wondering if the layout of the house makes sense, down here is the kitchen. Well, I mean, down here is the wine cellar, and then beyond that is the kitchen. So the main dining room, the formal dining room, is above the kitchen, so it does make sense. Ah, they thought about layouts. Impressive. And then on the other side of the house, we have another dining table, possibly? I guess this is informal dining, right? A fish tank. And then we have another big screen TV. So this is the actual lounge. There's a chair where you just watch the fish. Would you really sit down and just watch fish? Alright, so we have a big screen TV there and a whole lot of booze. So this is the lounge, I guess. Although it's not very homey. Like you're facing the fish, you're facing the TV. Like a homey lounge, you would like maybe sit around sit around each and let's talk to each other. I guess that's what you do outside, although they're doing white powder out here. Like a homey lounge, you would focus on each other, whereas in a less friendly lounge, you would be like focusing on the TV, or like focusing on things other than each other. Like you're not focusing on other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now I feel safe.
And then over in this corner of the house, we have a museum. A museum dedicated to the owner of the house. How many of you do this? How many of you have a museum of yourself in your house? So this guy has a bit of an ego. I mean, look at him, look at him. Yeah, no, he's using money to light his cigar. He has been arrested before.
Guess it comes with the territory, but you're it, man.
What is that? Like a silver-plated sports car with bullet holes? Alright, tough guy. Alright. So back into the entry lobby. Let's go ahead and go upstairs and look around. So this is the balcony, right? Oh, you'll notice like the big wide open walls. Again, in a lot of tropical climates, you want to open up the walls and let the breeze come through because it's hot and humid, so you want the breeze to cool down the house and to not have the air become stagnant. So very, very nice. I just want to point out that even though it's like super modern, it still has these sensible architectural features like wide overhangs and open walls, which makes sense in a hot, humid climate. Like they're not just relying on air conditioning, even though they could, right? So this is like, I like it. It's kind of sensible, even though it's really like fancy and extravagant. What is that lighting piece? Look at that. Strange. On this side, we have a kind of a bedroom, but it's not really being used. I guess it's being renovated. We have like, what is that, like a table on the bed? Balconies go all around. What is this? Oh, a bathroom. Oh, so this bedroom has its own attached bathroom. And then this side we have another bedroom. This one, not just a bed, but also a sitting area. And also a desk. This is a full apartment. And we also have a bathroom. A shower though, not a bath. Right, so another bedroom and also an outdoor area too. So we have a little outdoor sitting area attached to the bedroom. And then going back in, we have another bedroom. This one is the biggest, like it's big, bigger and biggest, right? There's no small bedrooms. This was ginormous. And you'll notice there's piles of money. Yeah, piles of money. I think that's gold. It's just got a gold fixture on the wall. And then more piles of money, very cool. And is this like expensive art? Are these antiques? It's like an antique table with piles of money on it. And like rare paintings, expensive shoes, and then like expensive sculptures, And more piles of money? Ah, yeah, this guy has piles of money. In case you didn't notice, we have a very fancy wardrobe with a lot of expensive clothes. Just like, keep in mind what the village looks like, what Santa Fortuna looks like, and then what this looks like, right? This is complete contrast. Oh, it's just piles of money. Piles of money in your wardrobe. They're really emphasizing the extreme contrast between the lifestyle of this drug cartel boss versus the lifestyle of ordinary people who live in his village. Big fancy bathroom, very cool. The bath is here. The bath has a view, by the way. Alright, very cool. And then coming back out. Oh, more antiques. And next door we have the office, and the office is literally covered in gold. Oh, it's so funny! Alright, the office is covered in gold. He does a little bit of work. Is that a pile of money? Or is that food? What is that? No, it's a pile of money. Alright, there's a pile of money in his office. Back here we do have a bathroom. Well, it's just the toilet. There's no showers or baths in the office, I guess. And then he has a balcony. Piles of money, gold-plated nonsense. Alright. So that's the upstairs. Let's go back downstairs. There's also a basement. Hey, guess what's in the basement? I'll give you a few moments to imagine what might be in the basement. So as we get into the basement, look at this.
Great to see somebody doing their job.
The wall transitions to bare concrete, but there's still fancy recessed lighting up there and down here. So, like, it's bare concrete, but it's still really fancy somehow. It's the basement, and there's like exposed pipes, but it's still somehow really fancy. Isn't that funny? Look at that recessed lighting in the basement. Okay, first of all, this room. Oh, there's piles of money in the basement, you guys. I asked you what you thought was in the basement. If you said piles of money, you are correct! There's piles of money in the basement! Ah, very good. There's a room with just piles of money in it. That's the whole room. And then over here we have another games room. Are they gambling? Oh, they're playing cards. And then they're watching TV. I mean, the TV's not on though. Oh, there's piles of money sitting there as well. And another bar. So there's another entertainment area down here. At the moment, it's being used by the security guys. I don't know if this is the original intent of the design, or if it just turns out that there's so many security guys, they need to go somewhere. But it's been turned into like the staff room for the security. And they also have a toilet. Very fancy. Alright, very cool. I find it interesting that there's just like stacks of stuff piled up in the hallways. Everything else is so extravagant, and they just have like boxes in the hallways. I think it's for gameplay. It's for gameplay reasons, because you can like sneak around and hide from people down here like this, right? It's a little strange though, but yeah, I guess for gameplay. Here we have a torture room that is actively being used, but there's also storage, I guess. So at least they don't have a dedicated torture room. They've temporarily converted the storage room into a torture room. And then down here we have... It's not too obvious what this is, but if you look closely, this is a forgery office. They have a full-time forger making fake documents. And this is his full-time work. They full-time make false identities? Ah, yeah, no, there's just a room dedicated to forging documents. Isn't that crazy? Over here, we are under the dining room again, if you remember. So we have wine. Not very much wine, actually. Not here, at least. There is more wine in here. But given the amount of money, just piles of money sitting around, I guess the wine is more quality over quantity, right? So there's not a lot of volume, but maybe it's all really expensive stuff. I'm assuming. In here we have a bit of a pantry. I guess you need, no matter how rich you are, you still need onions and potatoes. And garlic. Next door we have the kitchen, another massive kitchen. I mean, there's already the outdoor kitchen, and then there's another massive kitchen down here. I guess they're cooking for all the staff, because there's a lot of security guys here. I've already gotten rid of like half the security guys, just so we can do the architecture tour in peace. So there's a lot of people walking around this building, usually. We have cold storage, a lot of meat. What's that? Wait a minute, what is that? Cans? Okay. And then over here we have, oh, laundry. Laundry and staff lockers? I'm not too sure if that's enough laundry machines, to be honest, given the amount of, you know, towels just lying around. And that's the entire basement of the mansion. Alright, let me just check what I want to say about the mansion. So overall, the mansion is very shiny, very expensive. But there's still piles of money everywhere, so I guess they're not running out of money. It's very out of place in the jungles of Colombia, right? Because if you look at Google Maps, Colombia looks like the village outside. It doesn't look like this. Not in the jungle. So, like stylistically, and the layout of it, it almost seems like they're actively trying to spite the village and the jungle. Because, like, you know, the side that faces the village is kind of unwelcoming. And, like, you know, you put all the plants in like geometrical shapes, and you're like kind of squeezing the jungle into these ordered shapes. So everything is like in contrast to what's going on outside, right? There's also a lot of staff. Like, look at the security. There might be more people in the mansion than in the village outside. Like, one mansion might be bigger than the whole village. Alright, so that's the mansion. Now, how is it that there is such an expensive mansion in the middle of the Colombian jungle with piles of money inside? Well, the reason there's so much money here
Don't mind me.
is because over on this side, we're gonna find the business end of Santa Fortuna. These are Coca plants, and they are making cocaine. Oh, you know the white powder they were enjoying? Yeah, the white powder comes from here. So we have coca fields,
With the territory, but
we
you're
have
rich.
workers tending the plants, and then over here we have people making cocaine. Now look at him stirring that barrel. Yeah, he's working real hard. So if you're interested, you should look up how cocaine is made. It's terrifying. It's terrifying chemistry. You have to like distill the out of the plants. Anyway, it's terrifying. So in the middle of the plantation, we have this building. What is this anyway? There's sort of like a a lab where they're growing rare plants, I suppose. Interesting. So, according to the story of the game, they're not just making cocaine, they're enhancing cocaine with various jungle plants to make the cocaine better. I mean, quote unquote better, right? Walking over this way. Let me get into here. Oh, boxes in the way. So this little makeshift structure here, we have more cocaine production, more barrels, and then over here, I guess this is something to do with cocaine production here as well. We have white powder on the tables, we have a machine over there, and we have chemistry equipment over there. Right, so we have cocaine labs. Out this side we have a helipad. Interesting. And that's like a stealth helicopter too, look at it. It's like black. We have a stealth military helicopter. Wow, that's impressive. You know, okay, look, I understand, like, it's a drug cartel, they're smuggling drugs. Do you make enough money to buy helicopters like this? Is that how much money you make from producing cocaine? Oh, we have a dock here as well, so I guess you can ship things in and out. Interestingly, it looks like they're shipping food in. So they ship food in, I don't think they ship cocaine out by boat like this. There's a lot of cargo here though. I guess you need a lot of supplies to make cocaine. Over here we have a building. There's like a botanist? Or like a... yeah, no, there's a botanist. Working in this building. Again, as I said earlier, according to the story, they're using various jungle plants to enhance the cocaine. So I guess this is what they're doing here. This is just a shed. Nothing remarkable about it. So the cocaine plantation, I think it's too small. No, it's definitely way too small. Like a real one would be bigger, right? But also, I feel like there's not enough security at the production buildings. Cause you're making cocaine? And your workers would be tempted to, you know, sample the goods. You punish them very harshly if you catch them doing that. Well, I mean, I imagine you would. I don't have any first-hand experience. I don't have any first-hand experience of cocaine production. But from what I hear, other people tell me that if you like, you can't have your workers get high on the product. For one, they become unproductive, and two, you're losing product. So you kind of really control it. And the story is that if you catch them, you just kill them. If you catch them sampling the products, you just kill them. And that's, you know, drug production for you. There is more though. If we... oh no! Don't disconnect. If we come over this way, there are caves. Not too sure what these caves are. There are minecarts. So this might be an abandoned mine in the middle of the jungle in Colombia somehow. Not sure if that makes any sense. But there are caves. And then inside the caves we have more cocaine processing. So what they're doing, according to the story, again, in the game, they are packing the cocaine into toys, into like children's toys to smuggle them. So here we have like toy buses. And then here we have, I don't know what those are, it's just like sausages. They're pretending to be sausages. And then here we have like monkeys or bears, something. like toy bears, toy monkeys, and then they're like packing them, pretending they're actual toys, and then they're shipping them out. So this is the cocaine smuggling operation down here. We have a bit of a chemistry setup here, although I think there's a quality control here. And then if I don't get lost, I'm running down this way. We have... What the hell is that? We have a submarine. So they have a submarine in the cave, and they're smuggling the cocaine via submarine. Isn't that clever? Maybe a little bit too clever? Look at this. So submarine there, and then they drop it in the water, I guess. That seems a little too narrow for a submarine that big. But the idea is like they go out, they dive, and then they just stay hidden, and they just travel down the river, out to the ocean, and they smuggle the cocaine out that way. That's the story, at least. And we have a whole lot of supporting equipment to make sure the submarine functions. Right, so you have like mechanics. Oh, power tools, drills and lathes. That's cool. Good to see actual machine tools. So the issue I have with this, I mean, okay, it's very cool. It's a cool story, right? But the thing with like organized crime in the real world, you're always under threat from the law enforcement, right? You always have cops trying to shut you down. And unless somehow you're so big and so powerful that you're untouchable, which you're kind of not because you never know, but you don't want to have like too much invested in one place all at the same time, because if you get busted, if the cops shut you down and they confiscate your expensive submarine, they confiscate your expensive helicopter, they confiscate your expensive house, and they take all the piles of money, like you lose everything all at once. So the way, like, from what I hear, the way organized crime work is you try not to like have everything in a place where the cops can just come in and just shut down everything at once and confiscate everything all at the same time. So the fact that like everything is here, like the plantation is in the same place as the processing, is in the same place as the smuggling, is in the same place as the private home of the cartel boss, like all of this is in the same place. I'm not sure that is a good idea in real life. But this is not real life, right? It's a video game, so you just kind of pack in as many cool things into a small space as possible because the video games are cool. So, yeah, I just you wouldn't see this in the real world. I don't think like that's a very fancy submarine, it's a very advanced submarine, right? And you know, like spending money on this stuff, it cuts into your profits, you know what I mean? Like in the game, he's just got piles and piles of money. But in the real world, drug production is a business like any other business. Like you have earnings, you have expenses. You can't just throw money around because drug money isn't infinite, right? So this is a little over the top, is what I'm trying to say. Kinda cool though. Over on this side of the sub base, we have interesting. We have like a concrete bunker underground, a security station. These are bunk beds for the staff, I suppose. Not enough beds for everybody who works here. This might be just beds for the security. And then we have lockers. Alright, cool. So this is the caves. There's like a little bit more. Let me just check the map so I don't get lost. I want to go that way. Okay, let's see if I can do this without getting lost. If I come over here and then follow these caves around. Is this the right place? Yes. Alright, so we come here and we have some The Colombian ruins. Ancient American ruins. Now, I think this is silly, right? Why would why would this be here as well? So as I said, because it's a video game, they're trying to squeeze as many cool things into a small space as possible, right? Anyway, ancient American ruins. I don't think they look like this, ancient American ruins. But there's a hippo down here. I don't know. How did you get down here? And how do you leave? Can you leave? Like, does that go to the river? It's just a little bit silly. All right, let's keep going. No comment. And like, look at this ancient, like buried ruins. No, this is silly. But the point though is that the caves they connect the different parts of the map. So for gameplay reasons, you can move around without being spotted, or rather you have like different options for moving around.
You know, I thought it would be worse not doing it. But this is...
Okay, so that's pretty much Santa Fortuna. That's the whole thing. There's a little walkway by the river. Let's go check that out too. Nothing too special there, but might as well, just for the sake of completeness. If we run around this way, I think I can get up this way.
Weird.
Right, so by the river, look at this. So this is permanent, look at this staircase. It doesn't quite fit with the other stuff, and it's kind of broken as well. I think there's some sort of history going on here, like the mansion has some old buildings. The village has like one old building, and then there's these like old stairs. So there might be like an old colonial settlement here as well. Like there's not enough for me to be sure about anything though. So there's like the ancient Americans, and then there's like the colonial stuff, and then there's like the modern mansion, and then there's like the town itself. So there's like kind of layers and layers of history. I don't know if they really thought about it too much, or whether they just kind of putting stuff in to suggest that there's layers of history in this place. So this walkway goes around by the river. It's kind of gross actually. It's kind of damp. Damp and muddy. Oh, you have like logs just sitting in the water. What happened there? Is this like illegal logging? And they just accidentally dropped some logs in the river? This might be it. People are chopping trees down in the jungle and being careless. Alright, how far does this go again? I don't remember. So like the caves, this is like a different way of going around the town. Oh, interesting, look at that. It's not entirely clear what time period that's from. Alright, and this actually brings us to where we started. But there is one more thing we need to do, which is to eliminate Andrea Martinez. Hold on, let me just come over here, let me just find my stuff. Cool, very good. But before I do that, let's go ahead and summarize Santa Fortuna. So Santa Fortuna, it's a fictional village in the jungles of Colombia. For a fictional place, it looks pretty convincing, or at least like the actual village part looks pretty convincing. It looks more or less just like the real thing, like you could believe it, except for the road. Roads in the real Colombia actually are better maintained than this. But like the buildings are very convincing, like the construction methods are right, the shapes of them, and the style, very convincing. I actually think it's really cool that they paid close attention to the construction methods, right? Like they respect the architecture, and I respect them for respecting the architecture. The other stuff though, the extravagant mansion and the cocaine plantation, that's fantasy, right? Are there cocaine plantations in Colombia? There might be. Not that I would know. It's a bit fanciful, especially like the smuggling, like the submarine smuggling. That's a little bit much. It's a little bit crazy, but it's funny, right? And it's a video game, so you kind of put in crazy things just for the hell of it. So that's Santa Fortuna. Very interesting. And I guess for someone like me who doesn't really enjoy real jungles, it's good that we get to see this in game, and I don't have to go to a real jungle to see it. Alright, let's get rid of Andrea Martinez. And she's done.
This should paralyze the cartel. Excellent work, 47. Now head for an exit.
Alright, so that's it for Colombia. In the next video, we're going to India. We're gonna visit Mumbai in India. I will see you there.